Okay. Yeah, it's better for my end. I mean, it wasn't really ever us, but I thought I'd go out just to not make you feel so alone having to go out and
Yeah,
come.
that was nice of you. I didn't do that.
That's okay. That's okay. It's probably
No surprise there.
well, I don't think two of us need to be people pleasers at the same time. So
Okay.
I'm fingers crossed.
See how we did.
Okay.
Much better. It's
Woo!
perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're
Guys,
amazing.
we did it.
We did
We
it.
conquered it. Honestly, it's the little victories for me. I need a little win like that.
Yes, on a Tuesday, you betcha. You betcha.
Okay.
On a cloudy Tuesday.
A cloudy Tuesday. Where are you? Are you in LA, Damian?
I'm in New York.
Okay, me too. I'm on the East Coast, so boss is in LA.
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh.
All right, Gina, start us off.
Yes.
She always starts us off.
So congratulations, Damian Thompson. You survived 2 theater schools.
Yes.
So
It was funny 'cause
we should make a little club and have little pins.
Well, we call it double winners, right? Double winners.
Double doubles, double demons if you went to the DePaul, but I don't think you did.
No.
So you're in a club. We haven't had that many people who have BFAs and MFAs. So we want to hear all about it. You did your BFA in Indiana?
Yes, the University of Evansville.
Okay, so wait a minute.
Okay.
I have questions. So I've researched you because I'm no dummy. And you were born in Jamaica, or am I making that up?
I was born in Jamaica.
Okay,
yeah.
And then you moved to Miami.
Then I moved to Miami. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How the hell did you end up in Indiana?
Oh God. You know what? I mean, to be honest, I had never heard of the school. I'm gonna be blunt. Coming from an East Coast, I always tell people, like, East Coast folks, we tend to want to stay on the East Coast, right? Like, all the schools that we think of are like the East Coast. I think the furthest middle we'll go is like, oh, maybe Carnegie Mellon or something, right?
Yes, maybe Carnegie Mellon.
Maybe.
Yes.
But growing up, I think like everyone wanted to go to Juilliard, North Carolina School of the Arts, SUNY Purchase. Like, these were all the schools like on the East Coast, right? And if you were going to stay in Florida, you wanted to go to Florida State. So I auditioned for North Carolina School of the Arts, and I got in. And it was like mind blowing because at that time they had like one black guy out of 50 states. So it was like, oh my God, I'm the chosen black guy.
Can I just tell you something? That I dated the other chosen black guy that named Damian Davis. He went there, and he was the only black dude in his class. He's way older than you, but anyway. So you speak the truth.
It's funny. Like when people's like, well, how do you know that you were the only black? I was like, because I went to visit, and in each grade there was one. So I was like, oh, that's me. Great. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is so sad. And it does really seem like every time we have a black guest, that is their story. Like Tremel Tillman was the first person in his MFA program. Like I'm real eager for this first thing to be done with. And it should have been 30 years ago. But anyway.
I mean, I feel like a lot of things have changed. Like I look now, and I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt. I was like, if you're a straight white guy now, that's the hard thing now, because I feel like most programs are trying to rectify the mistakes of the past, right? But back then, that was it. So I was like set on going there. I had a really great ride, although it was you're out of state, so that always tacks on a little bit of 12 to 15,000 extra. But I got really great scholarships, and I was set on going. And then I was doing the Florida Theater Conference, and we had some schools that we auditioned for, and the University of Evansville was there. And I wasn't able to go to the callback because I was doing a show, and my teacher went. And my teacher went and represented me, and then she came back and she's like, I really think you should check the school out.
Wait a minute, your teacher went, what did she do? Like, I cannot imagine. So this is a high school teacher, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did go to a performing arts high school.
Okay, because I was going to say, my high school teacher was like convicted of being a pedophile and an asshole. So he did not represent us in any way other than that. So, okay, so did you love her and she loved you? She
oh my
must
gosh.
have.
So she was backstory. when I came here, I was put in like a speech class, and it was so traumatic and kind of jarring that I started to stutter, and I stuttered like every other word. So like it was like, "Hi, my name is Damian," right? And when I was in sixth grade, I did this exploratory wheel thing where it was like 9 weeks of computers, 9 weeks of theater, 9 weeks of art, and when I got to theater, they had us do like the Martin Luther King speech at some point. And like apparently I got up in front of the class and I spoke and did the whole thing and I didn't stutter. And my teacher was like, "Oh my God, you didn't stutter the entire time." And I was like, "Oh," and she's like, "I think you should like try out for the performing arts school here. It'd be good for you." And I did, and she told me later that she helped me get in, right? I was like, "Thank you." And then, yeah, so I got in and I went to the Performing Arts Middle School, Northern Middle, and
Wait a minute,
then
there
went
are
on.
performing arts middle schools?
There are
That
Performing
is,
Arts elementary schools. Oh yeah, I was behind the game. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
I
oh
want
yeah,
to go. I want to go back, but no, I
yeah.
can't. But okay, so you went to this you went to the performing arts middle school?
Middle school. And she was my teacher then. And then, ironically, when I was transferring to the high school, there were two high schools, New World School of the Arts and Miami Northwestern Performing and Visual Arts Center, which is the payback program. And I
Wait,
went to the
payback program? What's that? What does that mean?
payback, Performing and Visual Arts
Oh.
Center. Yeah.
Payback. I was like, payback? We got paid
I
back for something?
know.
That's okay. So wait a minute. There are two performing arts high schools in Miami. Go Miami.
There's more now. Like there's Michael Crop now. There's yeah, but back then it was two, and I remembered when the third came out. And so she transferred from the middle school to the high school that I went to the same year, ironically. Like it was like not in the cards, it just kind of happened. And so I ended up having her for 6 years, and it was literally life changing, like mentorism,
So
right?
yeah, right. Like we talk a lot about on this podcast, the essential like wonder and gloriousness of having mentors and teachers that actually champion us. So
Yeah.
she must have seen something in you, and you
Yeah.
must have seen something in her, and you were able to. I wonder if it was iron. Did she switch on purpose? Because I would be the kind of teacher that would switch just to be with you. I'm just saying.
No. I think, to be honest, it's it was like the high school program that I went to, we were like the underdogs, right? Like the other performing arts school had more money. They had, they were based downtown. And so the city wanted to up the stature of the other school. And so they asked her to transfer. She said no. And they transferred her anyway. So she found out like late in the game that she was being transferred. So it wasn't intentional, but it was literally like serendipitous.
But it was intentional, if you
It was
know
intentional.
what I mean.
Yes.
And now that you've told us that you went to performing arts junior high, I can say we've definitely never had somebody who went from middle school to graduate school, which actually makes you the most qualified person I've ever talked to comment on the theater school experience. So I'm so eager to hear everything about it. Go ahead and continue your story.
Yeah. So then, so then we transferred there. Great. So she went and represented me and came back and was like, "You should check the school out." And I was like, "Okay." In the back of my head, I'm like, "I'm going to North Carolina School of the Arts," And what was interesting was that even for my audition for North Carolina School of the Arts, I think I walked into SUNY Purchase prior to my audition to use SUNY Purchase as like a warm-up audition, because I was like, I want this school so much, I can't just like go in. I have to like go and do it with some other school and get the bad vibes out, right? And then went in and blah blah blah. But so then I reached out to Evansville and I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry I missed you guys, blah blah blah." And so they flew me up with like a group of students. Yeah, at the time they flew us into Louisville, Kentucky, and then drive us the hour and a half to Evansville. And basically gave us a tour of the whole school. We got to stay with like we had like, perspectives that, would like take care of us. And mine was Regina Wesley. And I was like so ecstatic. I was like, she was so cool. She was like, chill, relaxed, and kind of like a star, but in the most down to earth way, right? And I mean, I auditioned again for the rest of the faculty. They spoke to me, and then I pretty much knew I had got in just by how they were speaking to me. And to be honest, I didn't care because I was like, I already got into Oregon School of the Arts.
Right, like here's
But-
the deal. Here's the deal. Like you knew. So I feel like there's so many things to unpack here, but I will just comment that like what sticks out to me is that like, wouldn't it be great if we all felt like we belonged someplace, and so then we could explore other options to
Yes.
see maybe we really belong someplace else.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that you went in there not like freaked out, not like just kind of like checking it out. So you went,
Yeah.
and what did, besides your your sort of student mentor that you met there that was
Yeah.
like a star, okay, what made you go there?
I saw a production of All Wilderness and I was blown away. I was like, wow. Every single actor was amazing. The show was beautiful. The theater was beautiful. There was such a sense of community, like she was walking down the hall, she would, hey, to the tech people, to the stage-hands, like it was just like no one had egos, right? It was like everyone was really there for each other and was trying to put on a good show.
Yeah, and you're reminding me that like there's something about like we thought we were the shit because we went to a theater conservatory in Chicago, or at least I did. But here's the thing about being an underdog situation is that it's always, now look, Evansville maybe not an underdog anymore, but like at the time maybe it was an underdog situation. And the thing about underdogs is the ego, that part of the sort of entitled shit a lot of times gets weeded out when you're an underdog. And so you can actually just do the goddamn work. You know what I mean?
No, I do. But I will correct you a little bit. Evansville was not an underdog back then.
Oh!
This is what's interesting. I know. What was interesting was like, I just didn't know about the program. And I don't think a lot of people did. But when you looked at how many people auditioned and the acceptance rate, and the reason why they're so good, right? When the people are so, kind of community oriented, is that's how they were vetted. Like the school had like some ridiculous percentage of like 90% of the people were like valedictorians of their high school. Like every theater person had like an academic scholarship also. Like it was kind of a weird like, we're going to go out and search and find people and bring them to this.
It was like super intentional the way they created the ensemble.
Yes.
But how did they keep it a secret? And what, I mean, I guess you're a lot younger than us. Like I was like, why the fuck didn't I go there? But like, I wasn't the valedictorian. That's probably why. But that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, to be honest, I think it just wasn't as well known on the East Coast, right? The East and the West Coast. A lot of people came from Texas. Their competitors were like Webster and Oberlin College and CCM, and like that was like they would go against those people for students. But yeah, so after like that experience, and like I met like some engineering friends, some soccer player friends that to this day I'm still friends with. And for me, it was being able to be in so many different arenas, right? So many groups, and everyone's still supporting each other. Like I had like soccer players coming to my shows, fraternities coming to my shows. I was like an honorary like SAE guy. Like it was like everyone has to leave except for the SAEs and Damian. I was like, oh, thank you guys. It's like, so it was just like one of those experiences. And to be honest, when I went and visited North Carolina School of the Arts, like no tea, no shade, it was just like so highbrow that like I just didn't feel warm, I didn't feel warm.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's this thing, and I think it's actually a bad trap for some programs that they get into. They become so esteemed that everybody starts kind of resting on their prestigious reputation. And I don't know. I didn't go to Yale, so I don't know if it deserves the hype or not. But I have heard of that, happening, and then it's something that they have to really work actively against. And as Boz was saying earlier, the underdogs, even though Evansville wasn't, but let's say not the Yale and not the Juilliard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? Like when we were coming up, it's like, well, there's Yale and there's Juilliard and there's Tisch, and then there's everything else, right? So that's how it felt to me. So you were smart to want to get in on something that wasn't, where you were going to be the focus and not the school's reputation.
Yeah. I mean, they were nice, they gave money, but it was just like, I mean, even my parents were there and my mom was sitting down, and then the head of the school like looked at her, and I know it was a joke, but it just didn't sit right with me, where he looked at her and he goes, "We think that Damian is talented. Do you think he's talented?" And then I'm sitting there like, and then my mom is kind of like, she doesn't know what to say, and I'm like, this is awkward. Like, this is like, what? Like,
I mean, also like it's a little sinister. There's like something weird and White Lotusy about it. It's like,
I didn't.
Is this a trick question? What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. Says maybe, is she going to support me? I was like, well, we came all the way to North Carolina. Like, here we are, right?
Yeah, that's some dumb like vetting weird shit. Who knows what that is?
Yeah, it was weird, but. I mean, I think my path would probably have been a little different either way, but I'm glad with the path that I chose. So I ended up going to Evansville and, got a scholarship and everything. I remember like my funny story about a scholarship, because I was like a scholarship fiend at that age. Like I applied for everything outside of the school. I applied to everything through the school. They sent me my package and it came, and it was like, I had a Martin Luther King scholarship that was like $500. And I called the school and I was like, I see that I have a Martin Luther King scholarship here. And they're like, yeah. It's our way of, it's for diversity, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I was like, it's $500. And she goes, yeah. And I was like, I think Martin Luther King did a little bit more than $500. Don't you? And she was like, gagged, like, just like, okay. And so they added like an extra 1,000. So it was like 1,000.
Yes.
But what was interesting is that when they give you the financial packet, like say they give you 20,000, right? If they change it, normally they just change the name, but it's still 20,000, right? But because they had already awarded me the package, say they awarded 20,000 already, when I asked for more, they couldn't just be like, oh, we're going to take money from here and just rename it this, and you still have 20,000. They had to go up. So I literally got an extra 1,000 added onto it just because I asked that question.
That's amazing.
Okay, that's very bold, and not every young person would have had the tenacity to do that. So does this mean like you've been fearless since day one, or is this something you've really cultivated over time?
No, I just feel like, I mean, I think in my life, I've always asked for the things that I wanted, whether I got it or not. Like I had a friend, and I use the term loosely friend. I would say coworker once that got really angry at me for no reason. And I was like, she was very like, she was just in a mode one day. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Right. Sorry for cursing. And she was just like, I mean, you just get like everything you want. Like, why do you think that you're so special? And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. I was like, no, I literally ask for the things that I want, and I don't get everything that I want, but I get a lot of what I want because I asked for it.
Well, and I think that's like so, I'm sort of like looking at the factors about what make artists successful, and a lot of it, yes, is luck, and but I think the thing that people have, and talent, but the thing that a lot of people that are able to do the work in this field in the entertainment industry, whether it's stage or screen or whatever, are people that fucking ask for what they want in a way that is clear and not vague and very specific. So I was like someone who was like, oh, like I'd love to like, have a meeting with you. No, like, and people are like, no, you say like, I really am interested in working in this field. Can you help me get a job? Versus this vague bullshit. So you asked for a specific thing and you got it. And look, people who are afraid to do that are gonna like find fault with that because they wish they could do it. It's like, no, you two have a mouth. You have a mouth, my friend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the worst thing that they'll say is no, right? Like I mean, I've used that model throughout my entire career where before I even had an agent, I would like email casting directors, I'd email writers, I'd email the artistic director, I'd email the director, I'd email the costume person. I'd be like, oh my God, Lisa, I know that we worked together, blah, blah. I see that you're working on this show. I would like to go in for this part. Could you like pass my stuff on to the artistic director? And they'll be yes or no, right? Most times it would be yes, because it's like, how many people actually ask? Not a lot. So I was like, great.
And also,
you
you're not
are
a jerk.
my hero. You're
Yeah,
my hero. I wish I had that, you know, because when you say it, it sounds so straightforward. There is something that you want, and then you find a person who might be able to give it to you, and then you ask them. On the face of it, it sounds so straightforward. I don't necessarily understand why so many of us just don't even try, you know, to take that first step. So kudos to you.
Well, I think it's the idea that the no means something to you, like, or means something about you. You know, like they're saying no because they don't think you're talented or something. Where it's like they're saying no because they probably have someone that they're doing, you know, someone
or
else,
whatever. Like it doesn't.
Or
I think the ability to not take shit personally is what, and I think, and I don't know if I'm right, but both Gina and I, you know, are former therapists. So my therapist brain goes, okay, here's a human that came to this country from another place, who had a stutter, who has probably heard all kinds of horrible shit. So like the costume designer potentially saying no to pass their stuff along is probably not going to break them. Do you know what I mean? Like there's probably something has been built, not out of necessity, that is a little more tough, for good or for bad. You know what I mean?
You oh God, you hit a moment for me. Like getting a little emotional. You hit a moment about the, you know, the coming to this country and, you know, going after the things that you want and all that. And the speech thing for me was, you know, like, to be honest, when I got contacted for this interview and I was looking, you asked for pictures, I think, and I was scrolling back and I was like, God, I've done a lot. Like, either just in my life, I've been, you know, a lot of places and met a lot of people. And I, you know, I was like theater school, and I had like a few things that jumped to mind when you were talking about it. And when you said, you know, going through that trial and tribulations, right? Like I had a moment in my undergrad, and it was towards the end of my undergrad when I was auditioning for graduate school. And I took a year off in between. Like, you know, like I think senior year, I auditioned like everyone else. I just felt like I was on this train where I was going to go, you know, I do school and then I'm going to, you know, middle school, high school, college, you know, graduate school. And so I took a year off and worked with the Pennsylvania Shakespeare to just make sure that this is what I really wanted to do. But that being said, the recommendation letters that we got senior year, you know, they seal them, they stamp them, so you can't open them, right? And I had an extra one. And I opened it and I looked at it. And that was for me, you know, they say sometimes success is based on two things, right? Like you're one trying to prove someone wrong, right? Or you've been just like, you have whatever trauma you used to fuel you, to propel you. And for me, that letter was a rocket fuel for me. I opened that letter, and keep in mind, like I had been called back to Juilliard, UCSD.
This is for your graduate school, for the MFA.
My graduate school,
And these are recommendation letters from your undergrad professors.
From your undergrad professors.
Right. Okay, got it.
And I opened one, and it dealt with my speech, which is a very sensible, sensitive thing for a lot of people, and especially for me, because I came from another country and I was in speech classes and I was stuttering about, you know, all this kind of stuff. And at that point in school, I had conquered stuttering on stage. It was still in my mind at times. I took a class where like a cold reading was like where it would come out the most. And I took a class one semester where I had to read. It was like 3 times a week. I had to read every single day in front of the class. I told my professor that like I wasn't gonna like prep for the class. I was just gonna try to do it, cold reading it and explain what my issue was and what I was working on and blah blah. And it was a nightmare, starting. It was a nightmare. Like I would get up there, literally turn beet red. This girl was like, I saw the redness from your neck go all the way in your face. And I'm like trembling, right? And so all this work or whatever, and I get to senior year, and I think I've gotten, I don't have a huge island accent. It's like a little bit there. The stuttering is under control. Like I'm put all the work in, and I open this letter, and it says, Damian has severe speech issues. And I was like, wow.
Wait, did the letter, I just have to go back. Did the letter like open with that shit, or how did it, or was it in there?
It was like, Damian would be a great candidate for your program. He's hardworking, da 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 da. And he also has severe speech issues.
Oh.
And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I don't think I have severe speech issues, right? And I was like thinking, I'm like, with this recommendation letter, somehow I was like called back to so many of these schools. I was like, why would I have severe speech issues if I'm being called back?
Well, here's my problem with this on so many levels. This is a fucking recommendation letter. This is not a beware letter. Also, why do they need to know? See, here's my problem with this is like, I want to know the intention of the person writing the letter. What is the intention of getting that information to Juilliard, Yale, whatever? What is the intention? Because I have serious doubts about the need for that information. It would be one thing if it's like, Damian has severe problems communicating with other human beings and emotionally connecting on stage, whatever. But a severe speech issues is actually not what it is. And oh my God. God.
And also, wouldn't that be something that you would notice in an audition if it was quote unquote severe? Wouldn't that be the first thing that you notice? Like if I'm talking to you now and you're like, Damian has a speech issue, you'd be like, wow, something's kind of off with him, right?
But also it's also something that is not indicative of any kind of talent. And I understand that they're talking about the instrument that is the body, but I am not aware of any person with a speech issue whose performance was actually, anyway, I have so many things to say, but go ahead. So you open this and you're like, what the actual
I opened this, and it took me a while. Like, I mean, clearly I'm even now like, it just, it still hits a little bit like in my head, like, God, I had to overcome that garbage, right? Like that, when I thought that I had done so much up until that point, right?
It is heartbreaking and it is also infuriating. And the thing that I can relate to it is I once had a new psychiatrist who had gotten notes from my old psychiatrist, and literally she read them to me. She said, "Oh, Dr. Altman told me all about you. Severely overweight with severe food issues." And I was like, I didn't think I was that over. What it floored. It was devastating because I thought I was worth something. That's literally, and I guess I wasn't.
I want to say something about recommendation letters. If you are a person who's in a position to write a recommendation letter, if you don't think that you can honestly convey why this person needs to get into that program or get that scholarship or whatever it is, you politely decline to write the letter. A. B. You send a copy of what you've written to that person via email or whatever, not the official copy. And because maybe they don't want to include your letter. Maybe you have a choice. You had an extra one. Maybe somebody has 10 letters and they want to pick the 3 best ones. This is gatekeeping. This is exactly the way in which gatekeeping keeps the power structure as it is. And I'm really sorry that happened to you. It didn't matter because you got in, but it does enrage me.
Yeah. This is, I look back, I got on the ACT with a full ride. And I'm like,
right.
This is, it was just the insanity of it. And then the part of me is like you said, what is the intention? And I think that's what I've never really been able to process why I haven't really moved on as much. Like I've moved on, but it still stings. And I think it's because now that you just said it, it's what is the intention? Because it's not like, someone's going to be able to see it if it's that severe, right? And I'm wondering if a part of that is covering your lack of whatever you thought you should have done as a teacher, but you didn't do, right? Or that's the only thing that I could think of. Like,
well, I think it is so psychologically tied to projection on their part. So when I actually went back and confronted my new psychiatrist, I said, first of all, why would you read that to me? And why didn't you check it out beforehand? And what went on? And she said, I am so sorry. I was so nervous. This is what she said. You were so powerful. And so literally she said, I thought you were so stunningly beautiful that I got perplexed and grabbed the piece of paper and read it. And anyway, it turned out to be, but I think that people don't understand the way that their words literally can floor people and can break people without thinking twice about it. And it usually stems from their own nervousness and inability to be honest about what is going on with them. But that is not an excuse to break someone's soul. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but you got in, you were like, fuck, did you ever confront the teacher? No, you were like, I'm done.
No.
I'm out of here.
No. I was like, and it's like, they did a lot. They did a lot of good stuff. Like it's not like they were a bad teacher by any means. And I think that's, again, why for me, it just came out of nowhere. Because I was like, I never felt that way. I never felt like they told me that. I never felt like they treated me that way. And so it was just like, I don't know, you think that you rose up to this thing, and then it's like, okay, which is, all right, pretty interesting.
And the other thing is that's just so interesting that I have to point out is that all they needed to do was change one letter. So he or she or they could have put D, had severe speech. It's one fucking letter that needed to be changed. If they even put Damian had severe speech issues, now
which he overcame through his diligence and hard work.
Anyway, it's one letter, you dumb motherfucker. Sorry, I have a whole.
No, I feel you. Yeah, or just like, like why even comment on it? Like they will hear it. This is their job. For like Juilliard, you had to read like all this speech stuff in front of them and do the sounds, and like even for Delaware, they had us like, it was an hour and a half like acrobatic audition. It was like they knew if you were on pitch, off pitch.
Right. But it's like words. It clearly did not stop you from living your dream, but it certainly was not helpful. So, okay. So then how the heck did you pick Delaware?
So, true story, my freshman year, because Delaware accepts a class every 4 years, right? It's a 3-year program, and then the 4th year they go around and they try to find people. They see people in shows or people that are graduating and bring them in. My freshman year, there was an actress by the name of Marnie Young who I looked up to, and I think she's amazing. She was like very classically, very into the classical world. I wanted to be in the classical world because I knew it was a way of like not playing gangsters and crooks and stuff, and I could play some royalty and some princes, and so like I knew that was going to be an avenue for me to expand my reach and workability. And I looked up to her, and she wanted to go to Yale, um, and she wanted to go to Delaware, but Delaware was her number one choice. She was prepping for it the entire year. We talked about it. I'd never heard of the program. She's like, "Oh my God, they build these like, classical stage stars," and I was like, "Oh, it looks amazing." And so she went and auditioned when it came time, and she said it went well. She told me about the callback process and everything, and I was like living my dreams through her, right? And then I remember one day, it was a sunny day. We're walking across campus, and I see Marnie coming, and she's bawling. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And she's like, "I got my Delaware rejection letter." And I was like, "Damn." And I was like, "But you're so good. You're so," I was like, "What the hell?" And then like 2 weeks later, she got into Yale. And so I was like, now I really want to go to Delaware. Because I was like, damn, Marnie didn't get into Delaware, but she got into Yale. Damn, I really got to get into Delaware. So then so when I got to my senior year, I had that year that I had to wait, right? So when I chose to not go straight to graduate school, I took that year off. A part of it was like, oh, I'm gonna go and audition for Delaware in the program that I could did. And then I did, and again, it's like one of those things where you just know when you know, like I met the faculty, like the audition was like I said, an hour and a half. It was like you had to do push-ups, you had to hold your breath and walk across the thing, you had to sing a certain song and repeat what they tell you. They showed you a series of like a minute of movement. You had to look at it twice and recreate it. Like there were like all these things, and I was like, oh my God, this is like a boot camp, and I love it. And then after that, they fly you in and they put you up, and you take classes with the people. And so it was like this whole gauntlet of thing that you're running. And I just I knew that that's where I wanted to go. And I turned down all the other schools, and I got in some pretty good schools that year.
Okay, can you tell us where you got in? Because it makes me feel good that you got
in. I got into the Oslo at Florida State. I got into
shit,
UMKC.
that's great.
Yeah, I got into ACT, like I said.
Oh shit!
Ride. I was waitlisted for Juilliard.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I mean it's fine. I mean I'm not.
Look to even get but also like to get waitlisted at Juilliard.
That's what I'm saying. Like all my classmates was like, don't audition for Juilliard. It's gonna be a waste of time. I was happy but I was like, well, at least I'm waitlisted.
Yes.
And yeah, so there was a few things a few other places and stuff, but it was nice. It was nice to have choices. I think it was like UNC Chapel Hill. I also got in.
Yeah, that's a great school. I think that what I'm realizing too is that you're making me see, which is really interesting for like being a TV writer too, is like I think that we do much better when we create ensembles based on what we're looking for as a group to proceed, a cast, rather than this person's beautiful, this person's skinny, this person's this. Like, if we could look more at our projects as what world are we building with these people versus world building versus she's cute, he's this. Like, how are we going to work together?
The biggest slap in the face for me when I got out of school, and this includes like graduate school and undergrad, like in graduate school, you feel like, my graduate school is a little more realistic, but like you look at a lot of these grad programs and undergrad programs, and it's like, everybody is not an ingenue. Like everybody's not an ingenue. And like they accept like 90%, everyone has to be skinny and in shape and, and try to be as beautiful as possible, whatever. And then you get in the real world and you realize in a show, TV or stage, you got one ingenue, boo. And then everybody else is regular folks, right? And it's like, and then you start to think, where were the regular folks in school? Like, where were the regular folks in school?
They were getting cut or otherwise marginalized.
Seriously, you had a whole class of quote unquote ingenues, and then you get in the real world.
Again, it's not world building. What they're doing is creating like their version of maybe what they want the world to look like. But when you walk around, even now going out, and you may know this too, it's like when you go to commercials, like auditions, they bring me in because I look a certain way. That they don't want me to be than ingenue. That's not the thing that they want. And so I'm like, oh, right. We need people to look all different kinds of ways because that's the worlds we're building. Look like all different things. So it's really about world building versus an ensemble building versus, everyone has to be like one way.
Yeah. The cookie cutter version.
So when you went, I mean, there was all this build up and lead up to going to that school, University of Delaware. Yeah. How did it hold up to expectations?
Oh my God, it was amazing. I mean, I'm just boot camp for life, but in the best way. I mean, we had a pool room. It was like a room that used to be a huge pool that they had concrete over and turned it into kind of a gymnasium kind of thing. But we had charts all over the walls, and you had your chart, and you had to go to the gym 3 times a week, and you had your numbers, and every other day you had to put your numbers on the board. No one was self-checking you. They did a whole mind thing about integrity, where if you lied, you yourself would check yourself. It was a weird thing. They got into our heads in the first couple of months as you are your word. You're nothing but your word. If you're not your word, who are you? If you don't have your word, what good are you? So the idea of lying would be why would I lie? I'm only cheating myself. This is so horrible. So each week we had to the numbers had to go up, and when it didn't,
the numbers of what? Like push-ups and shit?
Yeah, so we were on a Nautilus program. So we had to go to the gym and clock in a certain amount of time each week, and then say you were doing on a bar curl or something. I'm trying to think of something. Why I'm blanking out on the names, but say that you had to do some a chest press, and you were pressing 120 pounds. Then the next week it better be 120 pounds at 10 reps, right? When you get past 10 reps, you got to up the weight to 125, and you got to get 125 at 8 reps, 9 reps. Once you get to 10, you got to move it up to 130.
Yeah. So it was progress. It was about progress.
Yeah. Okay. But when your numbers did not go up, they were like, Damian, I see that you didn't go up last week. I need you to really make that happen this week. And so in your head, you're like, what? I can't, you see people at the gym trying to get it, whatever like that. But what it taught me was I had a friend that for 2 weeks, she didn't go up. And they were like, this 3rd week, you either go up or you go out. That's it. up or out. And you see what the mind is capable of. And you see that it's a limitation based on your mind thinking, because if you can do 120, you can do 125. You won't do 10 reps of it, but that's not the point of doing 10 reps, right? You just have to. And so you just have to do 1. If you can do 1 at 25, and you start building from 1 to the 2 to the 3. And so it was and she got it. She got it. It was just it helps you to push past this idea of what you think. And so it was things like that. And we never had an acting class. We had no class that was called acting. We had rhetoric, which is how to create an argument. We had speech classes, which is pronunciation, right? But everything was about how to create an argument, how to get your point across, how to communicate emotion, things like that. It was just basic, fundamental things that you can actually use on stage. Because for me, a lot of theater schools is that heady crap where it's pretend you're a dog or pretend I'm what? And this is going to be a really horrible thing to say, but this is just my opinion. Or that kind of Christian Linklater thing where it's breathe and release or whatever. You get on stage, you don't have time to be all it's what are the practical things that I'm going to be able to do on the stage to get my voice out, right? To speak, to bring it forward, right? To connect.
Right, to connect. Well, what it sounds to me is that their approach is very much on your body is your instrument. So you need to demonstrate a command of self-discipline in order to, if you're going to be touring with Hamilton, that's 8 shows a week, and and it's a great paycheck, so you're going to want to do it for a good long while, and you're not going to have the stamina to do it unless you learn here and now how to keep an instrument in fighting shape. You said something earlier about you did do Shakespeare in Pennsylvania. You wanted this classical training. Is that still your thing? You love Shakespeare and
I do. I mean, to be honest, I do. Right now, I do everything. I've done a lot of Shakespeare. Like even over the pandemic, I did a Zoom production of Pericles where I played the lead. And I'm going to say that's to this date the hardest role I've ever played. Like I don't know if anyone has ever read Pericles, but it's like that is a difficult play to do.
I could never get through it. I didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah. It's a good, once you understand it, it's a good play, but it just takes so much work to actually communicate that argument of what's being said and what's being showed. Like it was for the audition. I think I took a week to prepare one scene, and I was like, oh my god. So like when I actually booked it, I was like, what, they want me? Because even in the callback, I was on the beach in Miami. I was quarantining before seeing my parents. It was right before the Christmas holidays. And I remember I had this callback, and I was like, I have to leave the beach and go, do this callback. Like, and I was like, I'm not even gonna get it. It's like it's so hard. And I go and I'm doing the callback, and the director, had me do the scene, and he's like, what did you think? And I'm like, I thought it was good. I did it. I thought it was good. And he goes, okay. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you want to do something else? And he goes, yeah, well, why don't we try it again and do this? And I did it. And he was like, what'd you think about that? And I was like, oh, we're playing this game? I said, again, I thought it was great because I did it. I thought it was great. And she's like, okay, let's move on to the next scene. Did the next scene. What did you think of it? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So, but by this point, I'm just like to the roof, right? And I'm like, I thought it was great. I thought I could relax a bit more. I thought I could, I'm pushing to get that communication, but since we're doing it through Zoom, which is what we're going to be doing anyway, it's a little harder. But I felt like I'm almost there. And he goes, okay. And so we're getting ready. Like we had gone in for like 15 minutes now, and he's like, okay, well, try this. And then I did it, and then he was like, okay. Well, thank you so much. And then I said to him, I said, well, did you get everything that you wanted, that you were looking for? And he went, yeah. And then I just bluntly, but at this point I was like, listen, you've already taken half an hour of my beach time. So I was like, well, what is it that you want? Blunt. Like I was just saying, he gave me a look like, I was like, what do you want? And then he's like, well, I was thinking that he could be like, and I was like, okay, well, do you want to try it? And he goes, all right, well, yeah, let's just do it one last time. And I was like, all right, sure. And so I did it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, cool. That was it. And I was like, okay, well, all right, thank you. And so like I left it being like, this was a big waste of my time. I was like, he doesn't even know what he wants. He's like asking me what I think. I was like, what is this foolishness? And so like 2 days later, my agent called me and was like, oh, so you booked Pericles? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? She's like, you booked Pericles. I was like, Lauren, stop joking. She's like, Damian, I'm serious. I was like, no, this is impossible. I didn't book it. No, she's like, wow, Damian, I'm calling you. And I was like, I thought he hated me. I was even like bluntly like, what do you want? It's like, I don't, what do you want? Like,
Right. Well, go ahead.
No, you doing that, you saying that, I mean, this is exactly the same thing as asking for what you want. In this case, you were asking what he wanted, but it's the same concept. And also, was he related to the person who asked your mother if she thought you were talented? Because
No.
these questions sound very similar.
I think also it's just we don't know what people are wanting, and
Yeah.
I'm aware that we have like 5 minutes left, and something that I'm dying to ask because I'm obsessed right now is, okay, if you can go there with me, you're on stage and you are like, when you have a fear, whether it's will I stutter, how do you move through that shit, Damian? How do you move through your fear? Because I think other people want to know that, like me. Like, how do you move through fear about what something in terms of whatever it is on stage, you're acting? How do you move through it?
Two things. One, I think of my breath, right? The way that I conquered stuttering was that I started paying attention to how my body felt when I wasn't stuttering. And even when I'm excited or I'm speaking fast or, I'm angry, there's still this kind of like, I imagine that there's like a pole in the middle of my body and it's like a grounded pole. So as much as there's chaos around it, like the hurricane or a tornado circling it, there is still that solid kind of calmness. And when I connect to that, I feel like I can do anything. I can talk fast, I can be angry, and whatever. And the idea of stuttering doesn't even bother me, right? The other thing is, and this is what helped me to really get over it, was my graduate school, the head of my grad program had me do a journal of like what my thoughts were while I was stuttering, what my thoughts were before I was stuttering, where I was, what I was talking about, who I was with. And I started to see a pattern. He would meet with me like every other week, and and we would talk. And I started to see a pattern that like a lot of times it was like I didn't feel like what I had to say was important. I thought people wanted me just to hurry and talk, and you know, and I was scared about stuttering. And then he was like, create stuttering. When you're with your friends, stutter on purpose. He's like, and you'll see what happens. They'll just wait. Nothing happens. No one judges you. No one talks about you. They just wait, right? And so the minute I started to recreate it myself and was okay with stuttering, right? He's like, if you're on stage and your character stutters, guess what? Your character stutters. You're playing Marchbanks in Canada. Okay, Marchbank stutters. Great, you know. And once I started to see it like that, it was like, oh wow, okay.
So this is, yeah, I thank you for sharing that, because it's like actually super helpful. I mean, I'm grateful for it, and it's something that Gina and I were talking about, like my fear of flying, right? When I can say, no matter what, I was thinking about that poll you're talking about, no matter what happens to me, I am not going to abandon myself in this process. So even if I'm on stage and I stutter, I will not jump ship and abandon myself regardless of what happens. And I feel like that's that pole of like, no matter what happens, I'm standing here and I know at my core that I may be afraid, but at my core, I know that like I deserve to be here and I'm not going to abandon myself. And it goes a long way. So I like the pole. I'm going to use the pole image too,
the theater teacher that moved from, middle school to high school, she said something very interesting to me. She was like, you stuttered a lot when I met you, but the one thing that I admired about you is if you had something to say, you would stutter your way through it. Like, you wouldn't stop because you were stuttering. People would have to sit there and wait till you finish. I was like, wow,
that's beautiful. Yeah, because the thing is not the thing is not the outcome. The thing is the process and the intention and the way that you haven't abandoned yourself as you've, done really actually several kind of heroic things, not the least of which we were talking about earlier, moving here. How old were you, by the way, when you came to the United States?
9.
9. Okay.
Yeah.
What, before you came here, did you already know you wanted to be an actor?
No, I thought I was going to be like, I went through a phase where I wanted to be an accountant. I wanted to be an advertising exec. Like, there were all these, like, I saw myself in a big office with a huge window behind me in some city, And then I got into the fine arts, and I started like I would do abstract drawing and things like that. And so I thought for a long time that I was going to be an artist, right? I was really good with math. Like I came here in third grade, and I was doing algebra in third grade.
Wow.
Jamaica's school system is very advanced. Like I came here in third grade, and by the time I was in sixth grade, it was when I was doing the things I was doing in third grade in Jamaica.
Oh my.
So for 3 years, I coasted.
Wow, we are so behind, everybody. We are so behind. Wow. I
Like
could talk to you all day.
I'm saying when you graduate high school in Jamaica, you don't necessarily need to go to college, and that's why, because you've been so advanced in training. So a lot of people just do a 2-year vocational school.
That's amazing.
Oh,
We definitely have to have you back for a part 2.
Yes.
It's so interesting to talk to, and there were so many questions I didn't even get a chance to ask you. But thank you so much for your time.
No, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And I know that you're gonna, whatever you do, you're gonna. It's like that pole of integrity will be there, and I can't wait to watch whatever it is.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Yay! All right, this will come out on Tuesday, so be
awesome.
yeah.
I will. Have a great day.
You too.